All right, today we've got a awesome pod. It's one of our first Sparky Sales Systems member, a Melburnian, a Sparky that has been in the game for quite a bit now, and he's always looking to level up. And that is none other than Bill from Electrx. Welcome, Bill.
Thank you very much.
Awesome.
Nice to be here.
It's good to see you again, Brad. Last time I saw you, I think we were in Sydney, right?
Yes, having Greek food.
Greek food, yeah. It's pretty common of me, right?
Yeah, well, look, if I took you out for dinner, I'd probably take you to a Lebanese restaurant.
Sure,
so fair enough.
Bro, I'm down for Lebanese. You didn't come yesterday, bro.
I didn't know about it.
Don't be like that. You didn't come last night, bro.
Genuinely had no idea. I heard about it, but I didn't know about it.
Oh, it's beautiful. Don't worry, we'll be doing more events, and you're here now anyway. But that's the main thing, which I'm super pumped for. But for those that don't know, who is Bill and who is Electrx?
The simple answer or the long answer?
Mate, long.
The long answer is Electrx was founded when I was an apprentice.
Wow.
I had a business partner that was licensed. He's no longer my partner at the current moment, but nonetheless, he was definitely a big part of Electrx.
Yep.
Ultimately, Electrx was actually created with one of my mentors. So that mentor in particular, several years ago, I hurt myself and I broke my leg really badly, and being a workaholic, it sort of messed with me a little bit. So I was much younger. I would have been, let's say 19, 18, 20, somewhere around there. I couldn't tell you exactly off the top of my head. But anyways, I ended up going to this leadership camp just because some guys suggested it, and a really good businessman was going to
Host the camp.
It wasn't hosting the camp. He was having one of the talks, right?
Speaker.
Yeah, he was a speaker. Thank you. And so I ended up going there for that reason, but he ended up being the least amazing thing about that camp.
Wow.
So I ended up meeting my mentors there, who I was very fortunate. We just clicked, and then they just mentored me. It just naturally happened. And they asked me to do a job for them, obviously as an apprentice at that time. That's completely legal. Let's not talk about that.
Yes.
So I did a job for them, and me, naturally, I'm very OCD with how I do things.
Yeah.
And then
You're a perfectionist.
stupidly sometimes.
Yeah.
So this job that I would do now would take me, let's say, a day.
Yep.
It took me 3 days at that time because, one, I wanted to do like a really good job. I wanted to leave a good impression, etc. It wasn't really about money. It was
business reputation.
It wasn't even a business at that time. No, I was still working for my old company, which was Pro Beam Lighting, which is also top blokes. So unfortunately, I don't see them very often anymore. But absolute gentlemen. So I did the job for them. It took ridiculous amount of time, and they noticed it. But they also noticed how particular I was being. Like a duct took me like 2 hours, like just a straight duct. But it had to be perfect. And it was ridiculous, but it happened, and it created this. So he ended up coming up to me and he's like, "Hey, you're good at your job. Relax, like calm down. Stop trying to make things perfect. 99% is fine. Because 90% is even fine. Stop, sort of picking at it." And then it just formed into a conversation, and then it formed into him telling me, "You need to start your own business. You're ready for it." And me telling him, "Hey, well, I'm actually not ready." I had at that time, I did have Mo, which was my partner at that time, but we had a security business. You didn't need an electrical license, so we're doing security work at the site. And he told me, he's like, "You need to do it. Like you're ready for this." And I ended up spending 3 or 4 months building a business plan. At the same time, I was also very fortunate that one of the people that were renting one of his spaces was a photographer / designer. She went in and he just came up to her and was like, "Hey, do you want to help this kid build a logo? He's got no money, but let's just help him anyways." And he goes, "He'll pay you the favor back. Like your time will come. You'll need something. He'll help you out." So far, she hasn't even cashed in that favor.
Whoa.
And it's 5 or 6 years later. Wow. She has no interest in cashing it in. So
beautiful people that help out along
Zara,
the way.
She's an amazing photographer. So shout out to her. She's actually in Sydney at the moment.
There you go.
Yeah. So she's
shout out Zara.
Yeah, she's very, very, very good photographer. Anyways, she ended up helping us design a logo with Ahmed, which was my mentor at the time, and Electrx was formed.
Wow, beautiful. I love that. That's a beautiful story of how it came about, right? So Electrx was born, and for those that don't know, you're in Melbourne.
Correct.
And what sort of work do you do? Do you service Melbourne wide to start with?
Look, simple answer, yes.
Yep.
The real answer is it really depends on the job.
Yeah, beautiful.
So, you're not going to get me to go for 2 hours away to do a PowerPoint, for example.
Yep.
But, we take on a lot of medical centers, and mate, I'll go to South Australia from. They're just so much fun.
Yeah. And it's a common theme on the pod lately. It's been like, yes, we do go Melbourne wide, but there's a clause to that. Like it's subject to the job. And I love that because it's like, because you know your numbers, and I know we'll touch on it after, but it's just like, in terms of like the cost of running a business, I know you've got a very beast, break even sort of spreadsheet as well. If you're driving from one side of town to the other side, it's very costly, right? So it's
definitely
it's important to like narrow it down. Do you agree?
Yeah, 100%. It's not worth it. It, like the mentality that we had when we were young and starting businesses, like treat every job like it could be $1 million job, and I get that, and I agree with that to the most degree. But the other reality is, you can't run a business at a loss and expect it to turn into $1 million. It's sort of like a gamble at that point.
Yeah.
You're hoping that client is going to be the client that's going to take you to the next level.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way.
It's wishful thinking, right?
Yeah. And there's a lot of it. There's definitely a lot of it.
Yeah. And like in terms of, the work that you, like what sort of work does Electrx do?
Look, predominantly we do maintenance. So similar to yourself, we do a lot of maintenance. And then we sort of dabble into little fields in between. So something that I do a lot of now, as it's just constantly sort of growing, and what we're focused on is the medical industry. So I do a lot of medical centers, a lot of dental centers. And when I say a lot, comparatively, just to be very honest, it's probably 5% of my actual revenue. So it's not a massive, but
it's enough there.
Well, they're big projects. So, you're not doing 100 jobs in it. You're not doing a lot more than 100 jobs, let's be honest. But let's just say, it's not like you're doing 6 months at a time, but what you're doing is a project that will take, some that take 1 week, some that take 3 months. So there's one that I have to go to after this, funny enough. And
keep it on time.
Yeah. Oh no, it's okay. We'll got stuff there.
Yeah, you go good.
That'll be all right.
I love that.
But the project, started in December.
Yep.
And then we're coming into Feb, and it's sort of almost wrapped up, which is fine. Like I don't mind it because it's good cash flow. So it also goes back to the clientele. So that's another avenue. And then I dabble into lighting. So I'm actually one of Beacon Lighting's preferred electricians. And slowly we're just strengthening our relationship with them and showing people what we can do with lighting. So lighting's it's its own specialty, and there's a lot to learn from it. But the thing is, you have to be willing to make mistakes and accept that you've made a mistake with lighting, because it's its own language. It's trigonometry. Lighting is trigonometry entirely. So if you're not geeky with it a little bit,
it's an art, right?
It's an art. It is. Yeah. So people usually just say, "Oh, just go meter by meter and slap it down." Like that's the sort of the concept. Oh, you know what? We'll push it to 1200. Yeah. The other reality is you're meant to look at the beam angle, then you're meant to look at the wattage, then you're meant to look at the height of the ceiling, and that'll determine where you should actually place the light.
I reckon 99% of the listeners are like, no way I'm doing that.
My own workers don't even do it. They just tell me, Bill, this is the height. Just tell me what it is. Yeah. Because I'm very particular.
You're particular. You're a perfectionist.
And most people aren't. Yeah. So it's interesting navigating that.
I love this because it's a different sort of take, right? And this is why I was very excited about this pod. Because it's very, very different to what most people are. Like, you're perfectionist in terms of the lighting angles, getting the right downlights. Like, look, the way I look at it is the more expensive the downlight, the worse the light output. I don't know why that is, because I just got passionate and hit the speaker. Yeah, it's because when they have the diffuser like in higher,
the anti-glares.
Yeah, what is it called?
Anti-glares.
The anti-glare ones, I just find they don't give as much. Is that a myth or they do?
It's an illusion.
It's an illusion.
So I have this conversation with people all the time because you go from let's say, like the anti-glares that I use, they range, right. I can get them for like a trade price of $15.
Yep.
And it goes all the way to $80.
Yeah.
And every single one has a different application, different result. different output.
Even
different
certain
everything.
brands like Trend and stuff, they're even higher, I think, than $80. Like you got ones.
Oh yeah, that's the ones I generally use.
just,
I've bought much more expensive. I can't even justify it.
Yeah.
Because the $80 downlight is going to do what that $1,000 downlight's going to do.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's just people, but that's going into brands.
Branding,
now.
yeah.
So I'm not a big believer in going into stupid brands just because of the name. So you'd never see me driving a Ferrari.
What?
You'd see me driving a Nissan GDR, but
GDR.
you're not going to see me driving a Ferrari.
What model GDR?
34, 33, 32. So I don't discriminate.
B-spec, yeah.
Any of them.
Yeah.
You could give me a shoebox and it says Nissan Skyline on it and I'm happy.
Love it.
Yeah, but the way it works is, and it's probably hard to explain considering we're in the room, but essentially anti-glares work in the opposite. Generally frosted downlights, which is what you see more typically. It's brighter up high, it's more dull down low.
Right.
And if you were to get a light meter, you'd see that because it's glare. So that's why it has so much glare, is because it's spitting out all the light, but there's no focus to it.
Oh, that makes that. Wow, I just learned something massive. It makes sense. It makes sense. So the light is like an illusion, like it comes across lighter because it's all up high in the ceiling.
Correct.
But realistically, on a ground level,
the output's not going to where it needs to go. So it's literally like a spotlight. Like, you know, when you're in theater and they just shine the light right on that person, but the whole stage is dark.
Yes.
That's an anti-glare downlight. It's the same concept. But what you're doing is you're putting that focus where you want it to be.
Yes.
So you have the control to make the room feel dark.
Yep.
You have the control to make the room feel really bright. But ultimately, what you try to achieve with it is that the room from the outside looks dark, but then when you step in, it's like that stage. It's just perfectly lit up, but you don't feel it until you're in there.
My mind's blown. So I hope like the listeners as well, like they've just learned something. You know what I mean about anti-glare downlights? Like that's
yeah. There's a lot to it. There's a lot to it, but you gotta have passion for it.
You do, and I can tell you do as well. And you've also got passion for the medical. Like you've niched down, so you do the service maintenance game, but you also do medical. So that's like dental fit outs, medical centers, things like that. The standards are a little bit more. I know one of our other members, I think, reached out. They are like they've got like, you know, those trip rating PowerPoints and things like that.
Yep.
I think one of our members, Marty, I think he actually reached out to you to get some.
Yeah. I had a chat with him. Nice guy. Guy. I just helped. He knew what he was doing, but it was the quoting structure that's hard. But quoting it's subjective too. So
it is.
I'm giving him pricing based on what I charge.
Yes.
But my cost of operations is different to what his is. But ultimately, you know, you try to be similar so that way everyone's consistent.
100%. I like that. I like that a lot. And like the cool thing with medical centers and I think commercial sort of fit outs in general is it's different to resi sort of construction.
Completely,
right? Where it's very quick moving and cash flow based, and it's more. Look, of course, you're going to get the wrong sort of jobs as well, but like it's more professional. Like it's just, well, they need that medical center open for business.
Correct.
You know what I mean? So it's like, it's a very different sort of process. It's like, no, this is the contract. This is it. This is the operating hours. We're on. Let's go. Is that what happens?
Yeah, no, definitely. So funny enough, our biggest client is actually an electrical company in Sydney.
Wow.
So they're a very large commercial company and they have contracts through Australia wide. So in every state, they've got their own subcontractors. And we're just very fortunate to become one of them. Yes. Purely because we advertise that we do it. So they found us our way. And they give us a lot of work. But typically speaking, their job, their process, let's just say you're doing, so one we just finished was 16 rooms.
Yes.
The full start to finish project was done in 1 month. Everything. We're talking like we were working at the same times as the plasterers. Yes. I've never done that before. But it worked. It flows and they know what they're doing. Yes. So they'll plaster one side and leave the other side open.
Yeah, so you can run the cabling.
And then as soon as you finish, you go, hey, I'm done. They smack it straight on.
Wow.
And then as soon as they smack it on, you're cutting out.
It's like a McDonald's production line.
Yeah, it really is. But it goes back to the builder and the supervisor. The supervisor that we deal with in particular, he is a wizard. Yeah. So it goes. It's a craft. Just like everything else. But they work very fast. Yeah. Very, very fast.
which is good. I think.
Yeah, cash flow comes straight away.
You want the job done quicker, so you get paid quicker.
100%. I don't like sitting on jobs. You get bored, and then you start to hate it because then they go, "Oh, can we change this? Can we change this? Can we change it?" It's the worst. That's why we don't do new homes anymore.
Oh yeah,
we did two units for a friend of mine, and I just did it as a favor, and it's dragged out. 2 units, it's nothing.
I would never.
No.
For me, it's just like it's just headaches, and it's just like, oh, can you just come here quickly? Just one of you guys to do move this PowerPoint from here to there. It'll take you 2 seconds. It's like, well, that 2 seconds is actually going to cost me
money,
$600.
Correct.
By the time I send the technician there, get them to move that, get them to go to the next job.
It's not worth it.
It's not worth it. It's just like, oh, you don't want to. I know you're a yes man. Like,
yeah, I used to be.
Oh, you've changed.
Some bloke did some work in my brain.
Yeah,
which changed it up a little bit.
That's good. I'm glad to hear that, because you can't be a yes man forever. For
everything.
You got to put the no, and no is very powerful. You know what I mean? Because when you say yes to something, you say no to something else. So you want to make sure you're spending your time with the right people.
100%.
And it can get difficult, because you want to please the customer at the same time, and you don't want them. And they'll be like, and they might put like, oh, but they're giving us. Someone listening, might be like, oh, but they're giving us $20,000 worth of work, but in the whole scheme of things,
it's nothing.
Yes,
it's nothing.
It's nothing, right? Like it means nothing. The 20,000 after all everything, it's like, what are you left with? Like, is it worth? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, 100%. I completely understand. I mean, I think the problem in business is people get mixed up, and they get hyper focused on the money, and they forget the relationship.
Yeah,
the relationship is more valuable than the money, because that relationship unlocks new doors.
Yeah.
And that's usually what we tell, when we're coming to quote somebody, or when I say I, because I usually do most of the quotes.
Yeah.
I'll tell them, like, I've had people tell me, and I've used a lot of the methodologies that you've passed on to me, and it works really well. But one thing that I do for myself is when they say, oh, look, someone's a little bit cheap, and I go, look, the honest reality is, for me, it's about the relationship. It's not about the money. The money is just the exchange. That's just what we have to do. If I could do it for free, I'd probably do it for free.
Yeah.
But I can't, because that's just, unfortunately, the means.
Yes.
But what you will get is a reliability. You'll get loyalty. When you call me and say, hey, Bill, something's gone wrong, I won't be there within the week. I'll be there within the day. And that's the difference.
Yes.
And that makes a difference. And it's the same thing with Bond, who we do work for. Usually when they call us, we try to get there right away. And even though it can be obviously a bit of a nuisance for our own schedule, you make that work because you know that they'll repay that favor.
Yes. I love that. It's all about relationships, right?
Everything.
Yeah. And it's reciprocity. It's give and take. You know what I mean? Like, it really is. But it's got to be both parties coming together with mutual respect. Like, that's what it is at the end of the day.
Undoubtedly.
Yeah. So I'm massive on that. And something that I want to touch on as well. So you kind of said you do a lot of service work, maintenance. You don't do new build residential anymore. Besides if it's the old love job for someone.
Yeah. Plenty of those.
Yeah. And you're into the medical field, which is niche down as well, which is so awesome. And you said there's like different regs and things like that in that sort of niche. And it's a cool space to be in, like commercial fit outs and stuff. You also came and did a ride along. So you flew from Melbourne, did a ride along with was it you came with Daniel?
Wasn't it? Daniel. Yeah.
So what was your experience doing a ride along with Daniel?
Look, it was interesting, right? From one element, it was very difficult not to like contribute.
Yeah.
So I was sitting there, and he's giving really good points. Like, but I got a really good point I would like to make too. So
you were just ghosting, but you're like, I want to say something here.
I looked half. To be honest, there's some parts where I actually had to apologize. I'm like, bro, I couldn't help myself. Like, I had to help you.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it was a natural sort of reflex. But what was interesting is seeing the different sales styles. So the one thing that about myself is I'm very harsh on myself. So if I don't win a job and I feel like I really could have won that job, man, it eats at me purely because it's like, I can do better.
Where's that accountability come from though?
I don't know. It's just natural. Honestly, I've always been like that. Everything I do, like even if I fit off a PowerPoint, if it's slightly off, I'll go, no, that's not right. And I'll sit there and I'll mess with it. If like, just sometimes it's just an asshole. And
it's very powerful, Bill. Like, I know I've said it to you before, but I'm amazed because I know you've reached out to me as well. And you're like, I know I should have won this job. It was me. Like, it wasn't them. And I'm just like, that's amazing. Like where, because so many people always point blame on the customer, or they point blame on everything else but themselves. And I just think it's amazing. Like, I don't know where you got this mindset, this accountability. Like, if I didn't win the job, it's on me or that. But I just want to. I think it's a beautiful thing, bro.
Yeah. Look, it's something that's developed. Look, truth be told, the person I'm doing the love job for the students,
Yes,
he's a big part of it, and my wife. My wife's a massive part. My wife, man, she was made for me, honestly, because like I'm very, very weird in my own habits. But she gets it.
Yeah.
And then she's always helped me amplify that.
Yes.
So I'm like, you could almost convince me I'm autistic. I don't know if I am. Self-diagnosed. But the point being is that I am very particular, and it's an asset, but it's also a liability. So something that I learned coming from last year into this year. Last year I was very stressed, and I let it eat me. And funny enough, there was a guy that was on the podcast. I don't know his name, but I know I think he said he was a football player.
Oh, Jamie Small.
He was a lovely guy. That podcast was fantastic.
You liked it? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he was a brilliant guy.
Yeah.
I don't know his name, but don't hold me on to that.
Shout out Jamie.
Yeah, that's the guy. But something he pointed out is that, people were complaining about last year being a difficult year, and I did that. I did the exact same thing. I kept telling myself that, and it had pissed me off. Yeah. So I'd fight even harder. But funny enough, by me doing that, I ended up having the best financial year I've ever had.
Oh,
which is strange. And I didn't even pick up on it until I went on holiday. So I finally just stopped working.
Yes.
And then I went, holy shit. How did that happen?
Yeah.
And I couldn't work it out. I still can't work it out. I've gone over my numbers, and I'm a numbers. I cannot work out where it came from. I can't work it out. I don't know.
Wow.
So it's interesting because last year I was very grumpy myself. Truth be told, I could have been a better boss last year. And that's self-reflection straight out. Like, I've got staff, but last year I had the lowest staff retention rate that I've ever had. And that's something I pride myself in, usually being someone that really is empathetic and caring for my staff. Sure. But coming from last year to this year, it's amazing just with my attitude, how much the work environment's become better. And that's just myself. So it's, everything comes back to myself, like to all of us, we're in control. If you have a fight with someone, it's your fault. It's not their fault. Doesn't matter what they said. You responded.
Oh,
and I try to apply that to everything. And don't get me wrong, I'm not perfect. I'm nowhere near perfect. But I mean, I think that's the concept that we all need to follow, is that we're in control and we're choosing to let our emotions take the better of us or the worse.
Yes, bro, there's so much gold right there, eh? Like there's a lot, and there's a lot of self-reflection, a lot of mindset stuff. There's a lot of like I said, self-accountability, and I think that's just a beautiful thing. And I think it's so easy to play the victim, like, oh, the economy's down, interest rates are up, there's this and that. Or
it's true though. It is true.
It's easier though. It's easier to sit on a couch than go to the gym. It's easier to complain about business than getting help with business. You know what I mean? It's just, it's easier just to not do anything and not, give a stuff about things, right? It's easier.
For sure.
So I think people get complacent with that. And I think a lot of people, they just go, oh, well, whatever. And then they speak to their friends, and their friends have the same mindset as well.
Yeah.
And that can be very damaging as well, because they go, oh, nah, it's not possible to do this, or it's not possible to do that. It doesn't work. Now, this marketing doesn't work. This, sales thing, that line doesn't work. Oh, this, B&I is not good. And it's easy to get into that sort of like, it doesn't work, but it's worked for this person. So maybe you're doing it wrong.
100%.
And that's where that self-accountability comes through. It's like, maybe, there's another way to do things. You know what I mean? And I think that's awesome. And I think you were pretty surprised that, I've said this before on the pod as well. There's two things I want to say on that. First thing is, Daniel's not an aggressive guy, eh? Like
no, at all. He's so chill.
Yeah.
It's actually impressive how it works so well for him.
Yeah.
So good job for you.
That he's so Daniel, I trained him up from apprentice to now where it is now, and he just goes for it. And same as Zach. Zach is our other sales tech that does phenomenal numbers as well. So it's good, and they can compete against each other, which I like, a bit of friendly competition. It's not about doing wrong or anything like that by the customer, but it's about adding more value and maximizing your time, because you can't be doing it forever. You know what I mean? So take advantage of opportunity today and don't wait till tomorrow. Like that's
100%.
That's what it is. A lot of people are thinking too much. I think you may have mentioned this to me in the past. I think like people are thinking too much about, oh, but I'll go in lighter now and then they'll call me back in the future.
They won't.
Do you want to touch on that? Yeah.
It's the thing is, which is something you taught me, to be honest. Yep. It's you attract what you bring out. So if you show people, hey, you're cheap, you're gonna attract cheap clients.
Yeah.
If you tell people, hey, listen, no, I'm a little bit more expensive than anyone else, or to the norm, but you're going to get a better everything else. You're only going to attract those kind of people, or mainly. Yes. You get the odd random guy that comes through and he calls you. He's like, "Hey, I want a price for something like that. We'll come out and quote you."
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and they'll just hang up. Sweet, no problem. You've done me a favor.
You just qualified them.
Yeah, that's right. You've done me a favor.
Yeah.
So that's a big one.
Or disqualified, I should say.
Yeah. Well, look, and you can apply that to everything, every business. Like I actually, because I needed a haircut yesterday for this podcast. And I just didn't have enough time. So I ended up calling my little brother. I'm like, hey, you know some kid that just cuts hair?
Yeah.
And
looks good.
Oh, it's going to go back into it. Couldn't care less. But anyways, and yeah, I called up a mate of his. He just finished school. And I got on my brother. I'm like, sweet. I'm like, ask him if he's happy to cut me. I'll pay him whatever the hell he wants. I don't care. Like, he's doing me a favor. And my brother goes, oh, he only charges $20 for a haircut. I went, what? What are you doing to yourself? So I ended up speaking to the kid and I'm like, why are you charging so cheap for your haircut? And it's just random conversation. He's like, because kids are 17 and, like that's my clientele and they don't really have money. I'm like, that is the biggest load of shit I've ever heard. Like, dude, 17-year-olds have more money than I do. Those guys are just funded.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, you can charge them more.
Yeah.
Like, and you're still being reasonable.
Yes.
Charge them $40 for a haircut. I'm like, dude, it's taking you time.
Yeah.
Take advantage of the fact that you have a skill. They don't have it. They need it. So do them a favor. No problem. But at the same time, benefit from it. And this kid's living, him and his two siblings, they're living alone.
Right.
So his mum waited until he was telling me the story. I was impressed by this kid, man. His parents waited for him to finish school.
Yep.
And then they go, listen, it's up to you. We want to go back home. They're from Ethiopia.
Right.
Like, do you want to stay or do you want to come? And he's like, no, I want to stay.
Wow.
All right, that's sweet. But you and your siblings are going to have to fend for yourselves. Like,
It's amazing.
And 17
years old. And
he's a hustler, man. He's a hustler.
And the parents are back with Ethiopia.
Yeah, well, that's what he told me.
Oh, yeah.
And he's planning on going there to visit her. So I was like, dude, this kid's 17 years old and he's already 90% further ahead than everyone else.
That's crazy. And he would but also I think pressure's a privilege as well. We've said that before in the pod. Yeah. And I think it's one of those things, like he's going to have he's got more to, he needs it more than more people. So he's probably going to have more drive by nature as well.
I think so.
Because he needs to make it work. Whereas I think, I don't want to go off topic too much, but it's like when maybe it was the same for you, but when I grew up, I didn't have, because I came from first generation, Greek Australian. So it's like, I didn't have PlayStations and stuff because that was like a foreign thing. But my mates would have PlayStations, right? Yeah. And my dad would be like, "No, you play outside," that sort of thing. Like it was very big on kick a football, kick a soccer ball, play rugby, do surfing, BMX, skateboarding, all that, all that sort of stuff. But don't be stuck into that. And I think that's probably contributed to my drive a little bit because I'm like,
100%.
Well, maybe I want to PlayStation. I actually don't play. I can't game. I got
the same problem. I can't even do it. Like I'm horrible at it.
I can't do it. But I think maybe I was missing something. I was like, maybe I do want a PlayStation or something like that. But I think, I don't know. You tell me. Like, do you reckon he would have the upper advantage?
Look, honestly, I think this kid's destined for greatness. So, and you're talking about how long does a haircut go for? 30 minutes?
Yeah.
So in 30 minutes, I was just super impressed by this kid. So
yeah, I
mean, it's good to know that still exists because it seems to becoming less of a thing. Seeing young men and women just having that right drive.
Yeah.
And I think that comes from the fact that we're just so privileged here. And I had a similar thing like you. My dad's actually quite well off. He's quite wealthy, but my dad's I'm half. I'm first generation from my dad, second from my mum. But my father is the type of person where he doesn't spend freely because he's worked very, very hard to get to where he's gone to. And that's just typical, right? Standard. That's just
yeah, especially from people come from other countries. That's what it is.
100%. They've worked hard. And like, and my dad's story is is actually quite impressive. So I mean, that's another podcast in itself. But,
Really? Yeah.
But the point being is that he was like, no, I'm not going to just get you a PlayStation. You got to earn it.
Yeah.
And by earning it, I mean, I'm going to pay you for services.
Yeah.
So like, for example, he used to have an olive tree, and God, I hate olive trees.
Why?
Because they were a pain in the ass to pick.
Oh, bro, don't be like that. That's like against my religion.
No, it's in my culture. My grandfather has 500 bloody olive trees. I know.
I've got one tatted. There's an olive.
Hey, you can't take away. They're a pain in the ass to pick.
Bro, they're the most beautiful tree.
They are. No, they are. I've got 2 of them at home, but I'll never pick them. I just let them drop at this point. I've had enough of them. But point being, he used to make us fill up buckets by hand.
Yes.
And he'd pay us by the bucket.
Yes.
Like, it was just his way of teaching us value and hard
Did he make
work.
you split the olives with a hammer and put them into?
No, he
bucket?
wouldn't let us do that. I was
Yeah.
too young for it at that time. I think
I had to do that. Well, my dad would buy the box of olives from Flemington markets, and then he would go into the garage, and he would be like, "All right, you got to hit it, but not too hard because you're going to bruise it. Split it, then put it into
and then let it sit there for a couple months, and then it becomes this beautiful olive.
That's it. And he put his whatever, like lemon and chili and stuff inside it. But yeah, it's
plenty
funny.
of that.
Yeah,
or wogs. It's in our nature.
Well, what's better, tzatziki or tum?
Both good.
Both good.
I don't discriminate. The only thing I discriminate is on pork, but that's a whole different conversation.
That's fair. That's fair. But look, I think tum wins. I don't like yogurt, bro. It's weird. I think tum is just that's the greatest thing.
Oh, look, and a souvlaki, you got to go for tzatziki.
Yeah, I will have it. I will have it, but I think I do prefer El Jana. I think El Jana goes hard.
That's pretty good. We just got it here in Melbourne.
I know.
It's only been like a year, and we've had it. And God,
it's going well here.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, they're opening everywhere, so I assume so. I can only assume they're making money.
Yeah, yeah. It's a good business. It's definitely a good business. We've do work for a couple of them, but we've said top absolute top blokes, and it's just far, like, because we were servicing the one at Campbelltown a bit, and we were just like, it's just so far. It's out like Western Sydney, and what's it called? So it's just like we're just like, oh, we'll if it's for small stuff, can you get someone more local? But for the bigger stuff, they kind of get us. So
yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So no, that's all the thing with relationships, right? So. No, that's pretty awesome. And where do you see being like the biggest issues in the electrical industry?
The biggest issue?
Or biggest issue?
I'd honestly, I'd have to say it's quality. So I think the bigger issue that we have at the moment is that the trades that are coming into the industry, and not to say everyone, but I feel like there's a big part of it that people just don't do their job properly and don't want to do their job properly, and that's creating a snowball effect of bad trades and creating a bad image. And to top it off, because they're not so good at their job, they're charging cheap. Yeah. And it's a really stupid thing. Why Sparky is so varied in price, and then you've got plumbers that are pretty consistent. Yeah. They don't have a cult. There's no meeting. They just seem to work better, and they actually work together. It's funny enough, the whole apprenticeship, very rarely did I see other electrical companies working together, or just sort of working with each other. So it's interesting now that we've got a culture where electricians can sort of lean on each other, but at the same time, we share our secrets. Our secrets that we think is like, it's gospel. It's not. It's it's just something that we've learned, and I can help your business, you can help mine, and we can grow together, because ultimately everyone's destined for their own wealth. So why are we going to make it sound like if you're making money, I'm not going to make money? Yeah, it doesn't work that way. There's got to be 40,000 contractors now in Victoria alone, and that's just based on our numbers. Yes, which means there's got to be at least 100,000 electricians. There's still plenty of work. Yeah, there's a lot. If we all charge the same, then we wouldn't really have to fight so hard to get the job. Yeah, I think it's just a lack of industry knowledge, and I think like a lot of limiting beliefs. That's what I say. But yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, before yourself, I would never charge what I'm charging now, but it makes sense. And it I remember my first 3 years of business up until I had my first tradie coach, like not actually just a tradie coach. I was still I wasn't going forward, I wasn't going backward, and I wasn't paying myself at that time either. So for my first 3 years of business, I was charging my no shit. I was making an allowance of $1,000 a day profit, and I'm like, yeah, that's enough. That's heaps. And that's $5,000 a week. And then I got nowhere.
Yeah,
nowhere. I was in debt actually at that time.
Yes.
And then I upped it from that to like $1,500 a day, and I still wasn't getting much further. And then I kept going to a point where like, okay, well, this is a fair amount. It's not. I'm not eye gouging.
There's something there. Yeah.
Well, essentially, like the way I price. I price as fairly as I can possibly price.
So I have the wrong thing. Yeah.
Well, the thing is, like, I have a price in my own head. So let's just say, I've got my own structured day rate for my, for 2 guys or 3 guys. I know what it is.
Yeah.
I charge that, but then I put my materials on top, and then I give it fairness.
So your projects,
I don't want people to pay $1 million for our work, but at the same time, I don't want people to make me feel like I have to rush to my job.
Yeah, of course.
So I can still be profitable.
Yeah.
So it's that nice happy medium.
For sure.
And everyone has a different.
But you're allowed to make a profit as well. I think that's where people go wrong.
It's a business. I'm not getting up at 5 a.m. for nothing.
Exactly.
So that's the thing that people don't see. It's like, it's not. I didn't just rock up to your house.
Yes.
I had to go and build the business. You had to find me. I had to win you over. I had to go there. I had to quote you. That it's all money. It's all time. So it's absolutely fair enough for us to make money.
Very good. I absolutely loved all of that. Absolutely do. And if you had like one last message, because it was pretty funny because you're one of our like first members. I appreciate you taking that chance. What sort of sparked your interest to look at Sparky Sales Systems?
I agreed with everything that you said instantly.
With the 2.5K per day per truck.
Well, that's literally my budget. Like that's literally what I work off.
Yeah.
So, but I work off with 2 people, so I got an apprentice in each car.
Yeah.
Just because the projects that we do generally need an apprentice. Sure. So we're very similar mindset instantly. But the main thing that, and it's something that I've been saying for years, was people that are going to get their contracting license need to be properly educated on what to charge and believe it. The thing is, we do like a fake, it's called an RSC course, which is pathetic.
Yeah, I've heard.
It's really pathetic. It teaches you nothing. People should be actually educated to why, master electrician say the average should be between 120 to 150 an hour. That's what you should be allowing for an electrician, right? That does have merit. And that's only for one electrician. We're not talking about for a crew. That's what they're saying, that you should be at a minimum.
Contractor. Yeah. Not company.
Just one guy.
Yeah.
One person.
Yeah.
And that's a subby technically.
Perfect.
That's a subby technically. It's not a company.
That's a subby.
So there's merit to that. You got to listen to it. It's like, it's the same reason to why we look at some regs and go, this is a bit bizarre.
Yeah.
Why do we need to go to that level? I was like, no, there's a reason. Just think a little deeper into it. There's something's happened for them to create this regulation.
For sure. And
sometimes they are a bit, stupid or extreme. But you know what? If it's going to save someone's life, fair enough. We'll do it.
100%. I loved everything that you just mentioned there. So it's very important to know your numbers and understand your charge out rates. Otherwise, we're not just putting numbers out of a hat. It's all based off numbers with that, especially the SSS model. And it's awesome to see that you are, you know your numbers very, very well, and you look at all the data. And if you had one final message before we wrap up for all the electricians out there, what would your message be for all Sparkies?
We're one team. Don't work against each other.
Yeah.
Let's
level up together, right?
Yeah. If you need help, give us a call. I'll help you. If I need help, vice versa.
100%. There's so much. Nothing burns me more than seeing that there's so much work out there, and so much of it, no one's making money from it. It's crazy. You've got only like 5% of companies that are like smashing it, and then then everyone else is like, race to the bottom and undercutting. It's just like,
it's wrong.
So I think the sort of closing statement is everyone needs to level up together. Everyone needs to, price for profit, stop undercutting, and go for gold.
That's it.
Bill, you're absolute legend, mate. I appreciate you coming on this pod. Can't wait to come back to Melbourne and for you to actually come to the dinner.
Yeah, the one that'll actually be notified.
And looking forward to seeing you absolutely smash it and continue to grow Electrx.
Likewise.